So, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us for our final Tea Time Chat session. It's been actually a great couple of weeks for those who have kind of continued following us through. We've really explored the concepts of the working world post the current situation post-COVID through fantastic discussions with Chantel Jones from the Recruitment Events Company and Eric Simpson, formerly Transport for London. But today, we save the best till last. I'd like to introduce you to Andrea Fabris from PwC Italy. Today, we will be talking through exit plans when it comes to the current situation. So how do you get your hiring success back on track, specifically focusing on what they're doing or have planned at PwC. So, hi Fabris, do you want to just take the time to quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi to everyone, and thanks for this time with Becca. How can I say about me? I'm a once upon a time law student, which decided to go deeper into the world of human resources. So for 4 years and a half ago, I decided to start to work in PwC into the employer branding team, which became the talent strategy team. So I right now work into the team that is managing all the employer branding, recruiting, and onboarding activity for the country in Italy on PwC. And when I spoke about the recruiting activity, I spoke about the organization, policy, and tools about the recruiting activities, because we manage the process from the top, and the recruiting activity are done by the different business partner team of each line of services in PwC. So I've quite an experience into the employer branding and advertising part, but also into the policy and organizational recruiting activities in Italy.
So you always kept busy by the sounds of it.
Yeah, quite a bit. But the fine part is that I was saying before, I really like to live outside Milan. So into the weekend, I try to keep my mind busy with hiking and something like that, because I'm not able to stay into the city for a long time. So that's where I am.
Fair enough. And so, as you mentioned, you're based in Italy. You mentioned the lake. How has this whole period of confinement been for you in terms of managing your workload when working from home?
Yeah, we could say that here in PwC we are quite lucky, because two years and a half ago we decided to implement all the Google Suite tools. So I really could say that has been very, very useful to be already prepared to work all remotely, because we could do 40% of our time already before the lockdown of our working hour remotely. So we were ready, we were used to do this kind of activity. So the workload was very different, but not so hard to manage, because it's a little bit different to keep all together the activity of different team, the timing, because working remotely is very fine, very useful sometimes, because you have more time, you have more concentration, more the possibility to decide the time to spend on different activities instead of to the office, where you have different kind of activity interaction, and for some kind of activity it's better to be very focused at home to something that you have to do it. But the workload is very depends on the ability of each team to manage their activity remotely. So we are very lucky, especially into the human resources part, because we were quite ready to this kind of work. And also our business activity, were very surprised to be able to manage all their activity remotely. So I could say that we already done a pulse survey, trying to understand how our people are feeling about this period of lockdown activity or remote working. And the feedback are very, very good, because even some kind of activity, very, how can I say, very old school, very doing for different year in the same way. They discovered to be able to do the same activity remotely and to be able to do the same activity maybe even better than before. So I could say that it was a really nice experiment, and we are continue to try to do this experiment and get the best of the feedback out of that.
Fantastic. And in terms of your actual recruitment strategy during this time, has there been any effect on that at PwC?
Yeah, on the last 3 months, just to reasoning about some numbers, we hired 140, 50 people. So our recruiting activity, I've never been stopped. They became different. They became really different because the interview clearly were online. The interview with the business, so maybe the test more related to the technical capabilities of the hired people, has been a little bit different, but we never stopped to do our recruitment activities because when you work in a pro-serve company like PwC or many others of our competitor, we do not work on the short time. We work on the middle and long time. How can I say, we schedule a lot of our activity. So our workload has not changed so much. And we are constantly in need of new people because, to give you an example, on the last year, we always speak about the year in terms of fiscal year. So from July to June. So we are nearly to our end of the year. On the last year, we recruit nearly 1,700 people. So this year won't be very different when we close it in June. And we hope then for the next year, it won't be so different, but it will really depend on the economy and market activities because the preserved company clearly work, how can I say, in a way that very depends on the working activity of other main company. So we are waiting to see how and when the economy, the European economy and the other company economy will restart. And so we will manage our recruiting activity in this way. We are trying also to make some new investment into online tools, because clearly we already want to discover new tools, new possibility online before this lockdown, but obviously with the lockdown, it has become a really priority. So not just to go on with that spirit, but to discover other tools, to test other capabilities, maybe more technical, into our recruiting process. This is our mainly need for the next year.
That's interesting that you mentioned that it will have more of an effect on you in the long term, because from sort of speaking maybe to smaller or medium-sized businesses, it's actually the opposite. Yeah. In the short term, it's they're seeing the largest effects.
Yeah. It's really different. It's really different because when you consider a small or medium company, a period of lockdown like this could be very stressful, very strong to get on, because maybe you do not have the opportunity, you do not have the tools, you do not have the experience to work remotely, to manage your activity in a very different way. It's a little bit easier if you work in a bigger company because you have the tools and maybe you are not just ready to use them, but you have the possibility to discover if you are. And it's a really big game changer.
That's the thing. There's the time now to kind of really look and explore what problems are, or what improvements can be made in the existing recruitment process, and then B, to go out and see what there is. So how do you anticipate companies in general will change their interviewing and recruiting practices due to COVID-19? So next step in terms of when hopefully toward the back end of this year when companies start moving again, how do you anticipate that they will change their processes in terms of interviewing and recruiting?
I hope that we became more able to, how can I say, to use all the tools that the digital transformation could give us. So it's really useful, I think, to make the interview on face-to-face with people, because it's easier to understand someone if you have someone really in front of you. But I think that you could do the 70–80% of the part also online. So we have to use this possibility, and I hope that all kind of company will discover all the possibility that the digital tools will give us. So I think that right now the digital tools are becoming also more, how can I say, not just cheap, and it's not just a matter of cost, but it's a matter of, am I able to introduce this kind of tools inside my company? Because if I am a very big company, the answer is yes. Maybe it would cost so much in terms of time, in terms of money into digital transformation, and that's okay. But for the medium and small company, it could be real difficult to do it into the past. And right now, I think that could be very useful to get ready to change and to transform not just the recruitment process and activity for the future, but all kind of process into the HR function, and not just the HR function for the company. So here in PwC, we plan to move different step of recruiting activity all online also for the future, waiting for a new normal that we won't know what it will be, but I think that will be really a new normal and not just the old one, because we discovered that we can do different things that we won't think before into remote working. But we also discovered that it's really important to have some contact, to have some interaction with our colleagues, with our clients, with our furniture. Yeah. So I think that will be a little bit different, but not so much. So more tools at our disposal, the consciousness that we can do things in a different way, and that we can start to recruit people, not just looking at their, how can I say, our skills, but looking at their capability and to manage the change. Their capability to understand that if you have a new tool to do the same thing that you were doing before very well, okay, you have a new tool, you have to try it. You have to discover if the new tool is more or less useful than the one before, because new doesn't mean better or doesn't mean worse. It means new. So we have to discover what this new is. And I think that for the recruitment process will be the same thing.
Brilliant. Now, I'm sure taking into consideration PwC size and you know, they're a pretty renowned name. So I think companies will be looking at you for a bit of an example, to see how you're dealing with it. Now, I know part of your role is focusing on employee branding. So have you, or are you considering changing or adapting your employee branding strategy post-COVID? And I think this is a topic that's starting to become more and more relevant and more talked about, because it always goes back to the fact of, well, and no company or a company will be only as good as how they treated people during this time. And obviously that's a huge link with employee branding.
Yeah, I think that it's really nice to discover, as I was saying before, that our people are really happy about, they're giving very good feedback about the managing of this kind of situation, about this lockdown period, because we have over 85–87% of positive answer to the pulse survey that I was mentioned before. So a large amount of our people are happy about PwC manage this period, this toughness in this period. And I think that will be a really big opportunity for employer branding activity on the month ahead, also, because in this period, you have to ask yourself if you have the right content to share towards your target, because right now you have a larger audience, larger than even before, because everyone is connected, everyone is online waiting to discover something, to learn something. So you have to be able not just to pass the right content, but to explain them into the right way. So we have to get ready, and right now, especially in Italy, but also into the PwC network, maybe on different targets, on different activities. But we are working very much on employer branding activities because we are reshaping our message, because we want to be ready. We want to start a new way of speaking to people, a new way of speaking towards our targets of recruiting, because we think that if you can explain yourself, if you can explain your word and your opportunity, the opportunity that you can give to the people in which you are interested for the recruiting activity, they could become part of your world in a very engaged way, because we said that we are looking for the game changer. You know, it's quite a good slogan, but okay, that's it. But the truth is that we are really looking into people that want to change something into PwC when they came in. So it's not really important if they are internship, if they are senior manager. In their way, we are looking to find people that want to bring something new into our firm, and we should be ready to explain them at the best of our possibilities. So that's our main target for the employer branding activity of the next year. And I think also that will be very important to improve the candidate experience of our candidate, because today, much more than before, it's really essential to give them a very smooth, very funny, very interesting candidate experience, to starting from the beginning to explain them how PwC want to engage them on this world.
And in terms of putting things into place, how are you actually doing that? How are you starting this new way of speaking to people? How do you envisage?
I think that's quite an anticipation, but we had quite working.
Don't reveal your secrets if you don't.
No, yeah. We are starting to work into new kind of career website. So we will have news very soon from our PwC digital team, and we are working for our recruiting digital tool. So we are trying to evaluate different access provider for the technical capabilities that we are looking into our candidates. So that's our two key points for the next month. Then we will have a truly big change into the wording shape of our PwC communication style, but we will see.
More to come.
Yeah. It's really important to work not just on the tool, but on the way that you use them. So you have to discover the best tool on the market. You have to use for your candidate to engage them, to convince them that you are the right opportunity for you, and you have to speak. You have to tell stories. You have to explain the life that someone will live the day he will join PwC. Because I remember that 4.5 years ago, I do an assessment for PwC, and they were really, really good to convince me that when you start to work in PwC, you have to work hard. You will face many difficulties during your path, but you will learn. You will learn, will grow, and will have the possibility to change, to introduce something new in a really big company, which is not a big company, but like all the ProServe, how can I say, we are a key point into the economic system, because when you make advisory activities, when you make assurance activities, you have to keep up to a very high standard, because you have to make trust in society, as our our purpose said. So it's really nice to know to be part of something bigger. And I know that all the companies, small and big, have to discover what they want to explain to their candidates and do it in the better way they can. That should be the main focus for the employer branding activity of the next months, because we have so many guys, so many people ready to listen, they're ready to learn, and we have to be very good to convince them that we have something interesting to give to them.
Certainly. Fabrice, thank you very, very much for your contribution. That's been fantastic, as ever. So just so I kind of sum up, for you guys at PwC, it sounded like you were already pretty prepared to work remotely, which was great. You already had some things in place. And it's really
discovered to be really well prepared. We discovered it, but I'll be honest, we discovered to be very, very well prepared.
And it's interesting actually that in theory your recruitment never really stopped, and there was still quite a large demand. But
maybe we'll have a little change into the general number, but the recruiting activity never stops.
Yeah. But you've obviously got this huge investment going on, or focused on online tools, which I think definitely echoes the industry in general. And then just touching upon employee branding, you mentioned this was obviously a big focus, and reshaping that message, which is interesting. I'll definitely watch out on your LinkedIn page to see what that's actually going to look like.
Yeah.
And start that new way of speaking to people and targets of recruiting to find those, who want to ultimately bring change to PwC, which I think is actually genuinely a really lovely message, that you're a company, open and wanting and inviting people who want to make that change into your business. Brilliant. So thank you very, very much for your time. Equally, listeners, thank you for tuning in, and particularly a big thank you to those who have tuned in across the entire series. All of the podcasts will be available on our Assess First LinkedIn page. Watch out for another series that should be taking place next month. And thanks very much. Have a lovely rest of the day, guys. Fabrice, thanks again. And we'll see you soon.
It's been a pleasure. Bye.
Cheers.
Thank you very much, Becca.